I wonder if you're aware of what the real reasons for war in Syria are right now. Why the UK was so adamant on getting involved in that region. Because we've witnessed now over the last 2 years, David Cameron, the Prime Minister of the UK, met 2 reasons to go to war. In fact, I believe he'd make whatever reason, so long as it was legal and justified, he would, on those grounds, pursue a war in that country. But the reasons for the war are not as I believe we're being told, and I'm pretty sure most of you know already now, or you should know the truth about why there is a war in that country. It's simply about international economics and energy. You see, Assad, the leader of Syria, refused Saudi Arabia access to lay a pipeline so that they could run oil to Europe and deliver cheaper oil or natural gas to Europe. And that would squeeze Russia out of the picture, because at the moment Russia supply 80% of gas and oil to Europe at the moment. And what we see is Vladimir Putin standing in Assad's corner, protecting, Assad, because as long as he protects Assad, there will be no oil pipeline coming from Saudi Arabia to Europe, and that means that Vladimir Putin can monopolise the market on Europe with natural gas and oil. And you can see why David Cameron and the rest of the Western world want to overthrow Assad and install a government, as they say, one in which that they can work more closely with. Well, it's clearly so that they can get that oil pipeline from Saudi Arabia to Europe, and in doing so, reap the benefits of cheaper energy. It's not because ISIS are there, because, as most of us know now, this group is funded by the Western world. And, I can't help but think of a story I read in the Bible about the patience of the saints wearing thin and almost demanding something be done immediately about what is taking place on earth, because, I'm starting to feel the same. I'm powerless to change what is taking place, but, you can't help but feel mankind is slipping into some dark region of animal behaviour and knowingly doing the wrong as opposed to doing the right thing, even though logically it is insane to do what they are doing. If energy is that important, then why aren't the Western governments investing more than what they are now in alternative forms of energy? We have so much already in which we could turn to provide the energy needs of us today. I'm not just talking solar panel, wind power generators, wave power, etc., hydropower, whatever. We've got more than enough. If we put all these things together, I'm sure we could meet the demands, even if it meant a few of us had to do with lesser energy in our individual homes as what we do enjoy right now. If it meant that we were not killing and murdering innocent civilians in order to have that. I'm surprised at the amount of people which I know that if you mention the fact of that pipeline to them, they would rather not believe that. They'd rather believe what the Prime Minister says about his reasons for doing that, and that is that there are terrorists, which is what he has used as the pretext of war this time, and sending those British RAF pilots into that zone. And, before that, 2 years ago, he was trying to get the war going in Syria, which he wasn't successful on getting a vote for, and that was on the pretext that Assad had gassed his own people. Just look at what we're seeing in the world right now and how our world leaders are acting. The British government have stood by whilst members of Parliament and Lords have laundered drug monies through HSBC, and no one's gone to jail through it. We've seen Tony Blair take our country to war as well as other countries involved in that Iraq war, on the pretext that there was weapons of mass destruction, yet none was ever found. And we're seeing David Cameron saying that the reason why the British are needed in Syria right now is because we have a certain expertise, and that certain expertise lies in the Brimstone missile. Yet, within 24 hours of planes returning from missions in Syria, the bombs that were missing under their fuselages were not Brimstones, they were Paveway, and that is not so much as a precision-guided weapon as the Brimstone is said to be. So, you've got to ask questions, I believe. And that's why I say, are we in the times that the Bible talks? You can't just completely deny these stories that are now seeming to be true in the Bible. Like, look to the heavens for signs of these times, because when you see those signs, you'll know you're in those times. We're seeing changes in the sun and in the heavens, I believe. And I believe that the patience of people, and maybe also the saints in heaven, are wearing thin. It's incredible. It's becoming impossible almost to live even in the West. And I think it stems from directly the government setting precedents on this bad behaviour, and it's filtering down to the local authorities, especially in the United Kingdom. I mean, I'm coming from a point of experience here. For the last 6 months I've been looking for work. Now, I'd like to consider myself a professional, and therefore, I think it would be foolish, but not beneath me, to do a labouring job, and I have done those jobs before. I've laid concrete block pavers, so anyone that has any knowledge of that sort of physical labour would know what I'm talking about. I did that for quite some time. But I am qualified in, science and law, and I've had extensive management training, even at board level. I've been on courses for that sort of thing. But I can't find work in the UK. I can't find work which would enable me to keep my head above water in the United Kingdom. And I apply for over 100 jobs a fortnight. And that is documented. I could prove that fact. And, the only alternative for me right now is the benefits at which I'm getting. And those are job seekers' benefits. And it is almost impossible to live on those, especially with my circumstances, having to drive, my son to school on a 50-mile journey, there and back in the morning, there and back in the evening. You can imagine the expense, especially here in the UK with the cost of fuel. And it's becoming almost undoable, and yet the local authorities, in my experience, have produced laws now to protect them in this line of activity of which they're doing, which what I'm talking about is the amounts in which they pay people on job seekers and other benefits. If you look at the OMS report, you'll see that the consumer price index is 0.1% and the consumer price index is 0.5% and the GDP is 0.1%. So there's nothing expanding in the manufacturing terms, and there's certainly nothing expanding in the consumer terms. So, you could think that there isn't, just logic tells you that there's no expansion in either of those in favour of creating more jobs. And at the same time, we've got a government that is more concerned with what's fair with regards to Europe, despite there being a crisis in this country which is not being correctly reported on. I have to admit, because I do talk about this, a lot with people. I think the suicide rate is not being recorded in this country as much as what is actually taking place. I think that they are severely punishing people now, and it's the poorest people that are getting punished. There is no justice system for the poor people. They cannot fight the local authorities because the local authorities have become majorly and heavily corrupt, and those people that work in those local authorities, and I will tarnish every single last one of them with the same brush, as evil, nasty people that do not do the job for the right reasons. They do the job simply because it pays the way, and they do as they're told, and they do not take any complaints further up the chain. They do not argue when there's something wrong and when they know that there's something wrong. So I do, like I say, tarnish them all with the same brush. And, how can people live in a system that demands you have money to participate in that system, yet you are barred from money? Now, I believe it is the government's fault. If they cannot keep a workforce going in their country, then they shouldn't be paying benefits at all. Because what I think they should be paying is subsidies in the similar manner as to what they do to farmers, not to produce meats and things like that. If there's a surplus, they pay them subsidies to not do that, and I think that's exactly what we should get. It shouldn't be called benefits at all. And this is a mess, and it's not getting any better, and people are getting pushed in this time where monetary system is hyperinflating. Wages are froze, benefits are froze, and that means what you get, you're trying to make go twice as far. But anyone in my situation or in a similar situation would understand how hard it's becoming, and it's becoming almost to the point where you feel that actions are now required, because you're not being listened to. The courts are not there to, resolve these matters fairly and justly. There is no justice anymore. If you challenge a local authority, it has become very much a dictatorial system, and a system that only benefits, the very wealthy. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the rich avoid, any form of chastisement or punishment when they're doing wrong, like the HSBC bank. These people that are gambling, the pensions of other people, when they lose it, there's no repercussions, yet they're destroying people's lives. Because I've heard it already. I've heard people say to me, what, I've not been able to enjoy my retirement as much as what I thought, because the money just simply isn't there what I thought I would be getting. In other words, they was misled. A lot of people haven't got the pensions that they've paid into because the companies have gone bankrupt or liquidated. When is man and humanity going to start doing the right thing here? When are we going to start addressing these problems in a much more civilized and logical way, is my question. And that is why I feel like, when I read the story about the saints becoming impatient, I feel that, the same empathy there. I feel that something needs to be done right now about this corruption. These people that make up lies and kill their own citizens in order to get more wealth need to be removed from positions of power. And I'm just curious as to what will be the final straw for many people to act, because it will only be when the majority of people act in a united fashion to address this problem, because we've got ticks deeply buried beneath the political system and they would rather die than, come out of it. They are embedded in the system. And I think it's in every, if we just look, it's the royals, it's the MPs, and it's the lords, and beneath the lords it's the bankers, and it's the security services, that are, there's a handful of people within each of these departments that are, turning a blind eye to what they are, charged with doing in their roles, which is, delivering service to the public, delivering justice to the public, and they are deliberately turning a blind eye for their own sakes. People are selling their own currencies of their countries in order to, make gains themselves. This is what behaviour we are witnessing right now here in the West. With this situation in Syria, I just feel that it could very easily spiral out of hand. And, I get the impression that these people running, at least the UK, are very childish. And that it'll be like, I've said many times, watching children push and shove in a playground, and it's only a matter of time before one of them throw a punch. Well, I think we've seen that with Turkey the other day, shooting down a Russian plane, and the reason why they shot the plane down was nothing to do with the fact that it was in, Turkish airspace. It was to do with the fact with what that Russian plane was targeting, and that was targeting oil from these opposition fighters going from Syria, those oil fields in Syria which they have commandeered, and into Turkey. And in exchange, money is going back into these opposition's hands, which enables them to buy more weapons. And, this is a NATO country at the end of the day. I just don't understand it. Sometimes, when you really see what wars are being fought over, you question then all of your history, I think, and what all the wars have been about. Is it simply been about money? That thing that keeps man in bondage. I just don't understand it. There has to be another way. There has been some progress, guys, with regards to the magnetometer station. We've put the master unit now in steel case, and we're working on the debugging of the SD card and the data logger. And as soon as that's sorted, that website can be put up there. There's a few other instruments that I want to add to it, and I'm going to borrow those from a few of NASA's departments, such as the magnetometer, not the magnetometer, the magnetosphere program that they run. I can't think of the word I wanted to use now. Simulation. We can add a few of those to it as well as more information on the magnetic migration of the North Pole and stuff. But give me your thoughts on what we've talked about in this video, and you tell me whether you're feeling a little bit like I am now, a little bit tired of all this crap, because I don't see anything changing in the too distant future, and I question, what I should do and what I can physically do to change this situation. As always, guys, there's a link down there if you want to support some of the work we do on this channel. It's entirely up to you, and also what I usually do. Take care, enjoy your weekend, and as always, guys, bye for now.